Hey folks, welcome back to the Rugby Ascendant segment of Chris Wyatt Africa. This is Chris in Nice following last night's matchup between Les Azuris and Les Terros. That's the Italians versus Uruguayans here in Nice at the Stade de Nice. Well, what an incredibly interesting first half as the Italians moved out to a quick try, but the Uruguayans did not give up right there. They fought back tenaciously, unfortunately missing two penalty conversions, a rather simple one early in the game, would have put them up 3-0, and then one slightly more challenging. So that was a bit disconcerting, I should say, for Uruguayans, who came away with nothing until the 27th minute when they finally got a penalty try after the Italians collapsed the maul at the try line. And so that was awarded to them. So that tied the game up at 7-7, and it stayed that way until nearly the end of the first half when the Uruguayans scored in quick succession. They managed to get deep and then score a try. This one was by Nicolas Freitas, who scored in the 37th minute. And shortly after that, before they went to half, the Uruguayans under Felipe Echeverri did a drop goal, and they went to the locker rooms with a 17-7 lead over the Italians, one of the top-rated sides in the world, in the top dozen or so. And this was a bit disconcerting for the Italians, no doubt, as they went to the locker room and had to deal with this. Clearly, their coach gave them a serious tongue lashing at halftime because the Italian side they came out and played in the second half did not resemble the Italian side we saw in the first half. Now, in this game, I have to say that the game changed very quickly in the second half. Was it a tongue lashing? Was it a reality call for the Italians? Or did a yellow card contribute to it? A yellow card was handed out in the second half, about the 45th, 46th minute, and things kind of went, 44th minute, kind of went sideways from there. Watching the video from up in the stands on the big screen, did not see the justification for a yellow card. Perhaps obviously the TMO and the official on the pitch, Angus Gardner, saw something more than we saw in the stands. But nonetheless, the yellow card was awarded, and it all went sideways from there. Les Terros never scored again. They never quite found their rhythm in the second half after that yellow card, and the Italians just ran riot. Now, one thing I will say about this is that it's interesting that the television match officials choose to interject themselves in virtually everything, except when a try is scored. Yeah. Now, we've seen endless television match reviews here called by the official on the field for TMO, and that's fine. That's a prerogative, and it's good to ensure that it's actually a try. We actually saw a try awarded here when Gardner had his back to the play, and there were players blocking his view of the ball, and I was behind the try line, saw very clearly that the ball was held up the whole way. It was right in front of me. And I'm like, what, you're awarding a try? Well, he went to the TMO, and the TMO helped him see clearly that, in fact, the ball never touched the ground, no downward pressure. It was, in fact, held up, and that try was disallowed for the Italians. This was after the yellow card, but they scored one shortly after that, so it balanced out for the Italians. But the one interesting thing is that when the Italians scored their fourth try to take them out to 28 points, that try, which was also in the try zone in front of us, when the player went to the ground, he lost the ball, and then his forearm put downward pressure on the ball after it hit the ground. That is not a try. That's a knock-on, and the ball should not have been given a try. They should have awarded the ball back to Uruguay. But nonetheless, Uruguay was outmatched in the second half. They couldn't keep up with the Italians. The Italians, who many people, including my co-commentator here for a number of videos before this, Nas Bota, the South African rugby legend, also said the Italians looked pretty good. Well, they looked good in the second half last night. They actually had two yellow cards simultaneously, one for a player collapsing them all and another one was given. So they had two players out. And when Uruguay, being up two players, didn't really capitalize very much on that. That's unfortunate for them. But the Italians scored try after try when that yellow card was issued to Uruguay. And that's where the game really turned in the second half. Anyway, folks, that's a summary of the game. And the Uruguayans now have played France and played them tough. They've played Italy. They've played them tough. Their chances for scoring a victory here in the pool stage come the next two games. The Italians find themselves at the moment at the top of their pool. They're actually in first place in Pool A. Interesting. Now that's because they had the bonus points in both games after slaughtering Namibia 58-8, if I recall correctly. And then here in this game, they have defeated the Uruguayans 38-17. So the Italians sitting atop the pool for the moment. We'll see how long that lasts going forward. They are running into tough, stiff competition coming up very soon. So they're going to have to prove their mettle. But for the Uruguayans, they've put a good faith effort, good effort here in the first half, and shocked many people around the world by leading this 17-7.5. Nonetheless, they come up short in the second half and disappoint their fans. But I'd have to say their fans are not really disappointed because they really did put a good effort on the first half. Just when that yellow card came, things went sideways, and they never recovered. From Nice, this is Chris. The next game up is Marseille tonight, and it'll be New Zealand versus Namibia, if I'm not mistaken. That's correct. France versus Namibia. New Zealand's already played Namibia. France, and we'll be hearing the French national anthem sang with a great deal of gusto tonight in Marseille. I'll be at that game. And then tomorrow it's in Saint Etienne. It's Argentina versus Samoa. I'll also be at that game. And then Saturday, I'll be flying to Paris, where I'll watch South Africa face Ireland, the world number 1 Ireland, the world number 2 South Africa, in the marquee matchup of the pool stage of Rugby World Cup 2023 at St. Denis, the Stade de France. Well, I'm calling for a Springboks victory by 7. Hope it's a lot more. But Ireland is a tough matchup, and as is South Africa. It should be interesting. I expect to see a sellout. One disappointing factor at last night's game, it rained a bit, but that was before the game, not really much during the game. But the stands were suspiciously empty. There were a lot of empty seats. Entire blocks of seats in the stadium, once again, empty. Now, why is this? What kind of ticketing scheme is going on here in Rugby World Cup, between Rugby World Cup and the French? Whatever it is, I never saw any empty seats in Japan. None. And I had 18 games, one of which was canceled by Hagibis, but 17 games I attended, never saw empty seats in Japan. Incredible turnout there. Here, the home of rugby, Europe, France, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, right here. And we have masses of empty seats. And of course, for many of these games, there were no tickets available. You couldn't buy tickets for months on end. Are they keeping them for their special friends? Is patronage creeping into this sporting event of rugby union? You'd be the judge. Anyway, final score is a 38-17. The Italians win in Nice, and they move atop the pool. Thanks a lot, folks. Be sure to stick with us and push that like button, and feel free to leave a comment behind if you don't mind. Appreciate your support for the program. Cheers.